natural process is come under the category of waste. The origin of waste may be of different source like mining, agriculture, industry, wastewater, construction, housing, or maybe from biological source like lignocellulosic waste, cattle manure, pig manure, and any other substances. As we know all about, that is the type of waste mainly include the solid waste, gaseous waste, liquid waste, animal waste, biodegradable waste, biomedical waste, chemical waste, and commercial waste. Now, the way as we correlate about the waste disposal, that the maximum contribution is done through the process of landfilling, that is 37.36%, followed with the open dumping, that is 32.18%. As we are aware about the impact of waste related in our environment, as we all know about, there are different types of biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste are scattered in our environment without any treatment, and these waste can cause different types of problems. You can say that the catastrophic situation in our environment, just like the melting of ice sheets, drought, and causes various types of diseases in human beings, and also simultaneously increasing different types of pollutions like air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution. Now, if we talk about the global population related to the municipal solid waste for G20 countries, it has been found that China and India has been the most populated country, has is producing a large amount of municipal waste, while the United States has a limited proportion of population but participating is highest amount of waste generation, that is 12%. As we correlate about the food waste, again China, India is the topmost position, followed with the United States. Now we will talk about the what is the status of world production of sugarcane bagasse in 2020. It has been shown that the Brazil has a topmost producer of sugarcane bagasse, followed with the India, and the in lower position Germany produce a limited quantity of sugarcane bagasse as a waste. While as we correlate about the fruit waste and vegetable waste, at it produce an huge amount, that the production is in very huge amount, but the processed is very in limited quantity, that is only 1.4%, 1.4 million metric ton related to fruit, and that is 0.5 million metric ton related to vegetable, and huge amount of waste are produced from the fruit waste and vegetable waste, that is 42.4 million metric ton related to fruit, and 70.2 million metric ton related to vegetable waste. Now, if we talk about the Indian scenario, top 10 Indian cities for waste generation annually, it has been shown that the most cities, mainly the Delhi, Greater Noida, Chennai, Hyderabad, Bengaluru, and Ahmedabad, mainly participate in the generation of waste annually in lakh ton. Now, correlate with the municipal solid waste generation. Again, the Maharashtra is the topmost position, followed with the Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal. Now, if we talk about the residue-wise contribution to total biomass surplus in India, it has been shown that the sugarcane bagasse has been found in more quantity, followed with the paddy stock. That the sugarcane bagasse shows the 40,576 kiloton, followed with the paddy stock, that is 28,224. Now, if we come about the emissions of different pollutant due to the burning of crop residue, it shows the different types of pollutant are generated after the burning of these crop residues, like PAH, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon, pH 2.5, particulate matter 2.5, and SOx sulfur oxide, NOx nitrogen oxide, NMHC non-methane hydrocarbons like ethane, ethene, propane, propene, isoprene, NMVOC non-methane volatile organic compounds. Now, the contribution of different crops residues in burning, in the topmost position is rice, that is 40%, followed with the wheat, that is 22%. Now, what is the scenario of state-wise biomass surplus for biomass pellets in India? It has been detected that the Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra has the topmost position in having the biomass surplus. Now we come to the point of global distribution of agricultural areas over the continent, and it has been detected. It has been found that the Asia has a topmost position, that is 30%. Now, what is the scenario of agriculture waste generation in India compared to the other selected nation? That India having 500 million ton per year, Bangladesh 72 million ton per year, Indonesia 55, and Myanmar 90. Now, if we talk about the forest area, then it's showing the top 10 countries with largest forest area as of 2020. And it has been concluded from this scenario that we have the huge amount of biomass surplus, so that we can use this biomass for the extraction of value added products. Either it can be nutraceutical, pharmaceutical, biofuel, any type of biofuel. Now, till now, we will discuss about the what type of waste are available at the global level or national level. Now, we will here categorize the different types of feedstock in a different way, like the first generation, second generation, third generation, and fourth generation feedstock. The first generation feedstock mainly includes the food biomass like starch, sugar, animal fats, vegetable oil. Second generation feedstock may include the non-edible feedstock sourced from agriculture and forestry waste. Third generation feedstock may include the integration of marine algae, that is microalgae and macroalgae, and fourth generation constitute the genetically engineered crops or microalgae. Now, the different types of fuels are generated from the different generation of feedstock, like the first generation, as we talked about, the first generation, second generation, third generation, and fourth generation. Now, we elaborate the what is first generation feedstock. First generation means 1G feedstock. First generation feedstock includes sugar feedstock, starch feedstock, and edible oil feedstock, just like the rapeseed and soybean. The 1G raw materials compete with food and are insufficient to meet the increasing demand for fuels, having negative impact on biodiversity and may even lead to deforestation to gain more farmland. The cumulative impact of these concerns have increased the interest on using second generation feedstocks, such as agricultural residues, wood paper, municipal solid waste, and dedicated energy crops like miscanthus, switchgrasses, sweet, sorghum, etc., which constitute the most abundant renewable organic component in biosphere. Now we come to the second generation 2G feedstock. Lignocellulose is one of the most abundant renewable material on earth. It is good source of organic molecules which can be transformed into useful products such as chemicals, materials, and biofuels. Forest waste, agricultural waste, energy crops are rich in lignocellulosic material. Like these lignocellulosic material mainly contain the composition of hemicellulose, cellulose, and lignin. The different biomass waste have a different composition in terms of hemicellulose, cellulose, and lignin. Lignin is the most recalcitrant component of lignocellulosic biomass. which slows down the decomposition of lignocellulosic itself. The crystalline structure of lignocellulosic waste with very strong chemical bonds hinder its utilization by microorganisms, which slows down its mass transfer. Now, the different sources of lignocellulosic biomass may include like the corn, straw, rice, and forest biomass, agro waste, agricultural residues, forest residues, industrial waste, municipal solid waste. These all category again contain a different types of substrate, like the agricultural residues constitute such as the leaves, stovers, straw, agro waste such as solid cattle manure, forest biomass such as cedar, spruce, and forest waste such as wood chips, industrial waste such as chemical pulps, and municipal solid waste such as food waste, craft paper, etc. Now we will come to the point of third generation. What is third generation? That is 3G feedstocks. Algae are the simplest and the oldest photosynthetic plants on earth. They can be unicellular or simple multicellular organism, and they can be it can be autotrophic or heterotrophic. Algae can be divided into macroalgae and microalgae. The total annual bird production of algae biomass is about 12 metric ton dry basis for algae. The harvesting cycle of algae is short and growth rate is very high. That's why we are focusing on on using the third generation feedstock, because it can be produced in huge amount in a very limited period. Why we are choosing the algae for as a feedstock? Because there is a very because it has a various key points, like maintenance is very easy because no pesticide and herbicide is required for its growth, low carbon dioxide requirement, for related to adaptability, fresh and saline water, it can be grown in fresh and saline water, survives in harsh conditions, related to economy, low water requirement, less cultivation area is required for its growth and cultivation, and related to yield, it can be produced throughout the year and independent of season. It can be grown in any season. Now, the last, that is the fourth generation feedstock, that is 4G feedstocks. The fuel production from genetically modified algae and crops biomass has gained considerable attention. Biofuel production by genetically modified algae and crops is categorized as fourth generation biofuel. Microalgae, microbes, yeast, and cyanobacteria are genetically engineered for biofuel production. It is the best way to cut the price, nutrients consumption, and ecological footprints is to boost the productivity and lipid accumulation. The genomic editing strategies are frequently used to improve the efficiency and lipid composition of algae. Currently, three types of genetic modification tools are commonly used for genomic editing of microalgae strain, like zinc finger nucleases, transcription activator like effector nucleases, and cluster frequently interspaced palindromic sequences. Wang et al. Performed CRISPR-based genomic editing of commercial algal strains such as Nanochloropsis, which accumulates oil as a source of plant-like fats for biofuel generation under nitrogen shortage. The genetically engineered microorganisms for fuel production. The Chlamydomonas has been genetically engineered to express many essential biofuels characteristics. Some green algae such as Chlorella, Nanochloropsis, Syndesmus, and Neochloris are rich in lipid content and hence mostly used for biofuel production. Syncoccus elongatus PCC 7492 and Syncoccus species PCC 7002 and Anabina PCC 7120 all have been used as a model organisms for genetic engineering for the improvement of content in it and using this content for a fuel production. Now, these are some of the lignocellulosic biomass that has a different percentage of cellulose on dry weight basis, a different percentage of uh, cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. Like the bamboo has a cellulose percentage that is 49 to 50%, and corn and hemicellulose 18 to 20%, and lignin is 23%. Corn cobs has the cellulose percent that is 45, and hemicellulose 35, and lignin 15%. Like the lowermost wheat straw contain the cellulose 30 to 33 to 40%, and hemicellulose 20 to 25%, and lignin 15 to 20%. Now we will targeting here the hydrogen production. Now till now we have described about the what is waste, what is the category of waste, how can we categorize the different waste in different category, like the first G feedstock, second G feedstock, third G feedstock, and fourth G feedstock. Now we will target here the fuel production, mainly target the hydrogen fuel production. Now, there are the different fuels here that has a different higher and lower heating value. That is in which in among them the hydrogen has a highest heating value. That's why we are preferring here the hydrogen production. Like that, nitrogen has the highest heating value, that is 141.9 megajoule per kilogram, and the methanol has a highest heating value, that is 20 megajoule per kilogram, while the methane gas has a heating value 55.5 megajoule per kilogram, ethane 51.1, gasoline 47.5, and diesel 44.8, while the methanol has 20 20 megajoule per kilogram. Now, that is, there are various methods for hydrogen production. Various production technologies are available for the hydrogen production, like the steam reforming, partial oxidation, gasification, cracking, pyrolysis, biological reaction, electrolysis, thermo electrochemical, and the photolysis. These all are the production technologies by we can produce the hydrogen fuel. But for all the technologies, we need a primary energy source like the natural gas, oil, coal, nuclear, biomass, geothermal, hydro, wind, and solar. But all we know that these four, that is the natural gas, oil, coal, and natural, are found in limited form. That is, they are the fossil fuels, which can be finished after some period of time. So we will target here on the biomass which are available in our environment in a very huge amount. So here the target is using the cheap waste and utilize this waste through a sustainable way. That is, sustainable way is a biological, through a biological process we use the bio waste and produce the hydrogen fuel, and these hydrogen fuel can be further used for the different purpose. Now, again, we will talk about the biomass for hydrogen production. Here, the different types of lignocellulosic biomass, like the energy crops, which includes the sorghum, miscanthus, sniff, switchgrass, corn, sugarcane, and animal manure, cattle, swine, poultry, algae. Industrial and domestic waste includes the waste paper, fruits, vegetable waste, wheat straw. Agriculture residues mainly constitute the corn stover, wheat straw, and forestry waste, the residues of trees and shrubs, shoders, and forestry, eucalyptus, spruce, oak, pine, and poplar. These are the most of the bio waste. We can say the lignocellulose bio waste, which can be used, which has been used for the hydrogen, dark fermentative hydrogen production. Now, through the biological way of hydrogen production is a two types, that is the light independent and light dependent. The light independent method has a two, that is the dark fermentative and microbial electrolysis, while the light dependent have a biophotolysis and photofermentation. The biophotolysis process have a direct biophotolysis and indirect photolysis. So we will target here only the dark fermentative process because it has a very elaborative topic. So we will target only the dark fermentation process for hydrogen production. Now, the different bio waste are available as we know in our environment in different form. So use this, but utilization of this waste for the fuel production is directly not possible. Firstly, because microorganisms cannot utilize these substrate directly. First of all, we can, because as we know that these waste contain a huge amount of energy in it. So firstly, the first target is to extract the energy from this bio waste and utilize this waste for the production of fuel. So to extract the energy from this bio waste, we firstly pre-treat this bio waste. After pre-treatment, some low molecular weight sugar can be extracted from this bio waste and utilize this sugar for the process of fermentation. After fermentation, we can get the fuel. Now, the summary of benefit of biohydrogen over fossil fuel by we will see here that the fossil fuels, they are the various process for hydrogen production. They are the fossil fuels are based on why we are not using the fossil fuel for hydrogen production, because it causes global warming, it causes environmental destruction, it causes air pollution, and it also loses the economic dependency. It totally depend on the economic. So we will target here the biohydrogen production, and these biohydrogen production mainly dependent on the lignocellulosic biomass, and these biomass firstly pre-treat. After pre-treatment, the potent strains can be utilized for the use of this sugar. And after optimization can be of different types like the concentration, temperature, and pH. After optimization, we can get the fuel in a very huge amount. And in a future, we can as we earlier discussed about the different types of fermentation process like the dark fermentation and photo fermentation, in future we can use the hybrid process. Hybrid process means we can combine the dark fermentation process and photo fermentation process in combined to extract the to gain the huge amount, or we can say the high yield of fuel production. Now we will come here the dark fermentation process. In dark fermentation process, two possible pathways are involved, that is the PFL pathway and the PFOR pathway. Generally, glucose is first transformed into pyruvate via glycolytic pathway. Sorry. The adenosine diphosphate (ADP) and the reduced nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide generates adenosine triphosphate. In PFOR pathway, this pathway, under anaerobic condition, pyruvate is transformed into carbon dioxide and acetyl coenzyme A that catalyzed through pyruvate ferredoxine oxidoreductase (PFO). This PFO. In facultative anaerobes aerobic condition, the pyruvate formate lyase, this is PFL, catalyzes the transformation of pyruvate to formate and acetyl coenzyme. In both the cases, acetyl coenzyme is transformed into ethanol acetate butyrate, and at the end we get the hydrogen in a molecular form. Now we will next is the targeting feedstock for biohydrogen production. Firstly, we will target here the algal feedstock. In this pictorial form, it shows that the wastewater has been used for the cultivation of this algae, and after cultivation, it has been harvesting. After harvesting, it can be utilized. It can be utilized. It can be used. It can be used for the extraction of carbohydrate, and this carbohydrate further used for the hydrogen production. The microalgae cultivation system may be of two type: open system and closed system. In open system is a dependent on natural, and the closed system is dependent on artificial base. The open system include natural sunlight, atmospheric carbon dioxide, oxygen, and the advantage of this open system is it is commercially viable, large scale production, minimal energy input, and marginal maintenance cost. While closed system is totally dependent on the artificial light, mechanical pump, and we required different types of reactors. And advantages of closed system is that controlled system, higher biomass yield, negligible contamination, and suitable for susceptible strains. Sorry. Now, the algal feed stock may include the red algae, green algae, and brown algae. These algae contain a different carbohydrate content in it, and amount of carbohydrate varies species to species. Like red algae contain carbohydrate 25 to 60% of dry weight. Brown algae contain carbohydrate 30 to 50% of dry weight, while the green algae contain carbohydrate contain 30 to 60% of dry weight. Now, the red algae contain carbohydrate in the form of agar, carrying glucanes, while the brown algae contain carbohydrate in the form of alginate, mannitol, glucose chain, laminaria, while the green algae contain polymerized glucose in the form of cellulose and starch, sucrose, and sulfated polysaccharides. These are some of the they are the different types of algae, like the Euglenophyceae, and its habitat here is the fresh water, and it stores energy as carbohydrates called paramynon. While the Chrysophyceae, found in marine and fresh water and stores energy as a carbohydrate is in the form of glycosin. While the Pyrophyceae, found in marine and fresh water and stores energy as a starch. Chlorophyceae, that is green algae, stores energy as a starch. Ctenophyceae, found in marine and cool water and stores energy in carbohydrate polymer called laminarium. Xanthophyceae, found in fresh water and stores energy as a carbohydrate called leucosin. And Cyanophyceae, found in marine and fresh water, stores energy as a starch and protein. Carbohydrate profile of red, green, and brown algae species. Here are the different red algae, and we show here that the Gracilaria cornea has a maximum percentage of carbohydrate profile, that is 36.3%, while in green algae, that is Antromorph flexuosa, contain 39.9% carbohydrate profile on dry basis, while Dictyosteliolata contain 20.3% carbohydrate profile in brown algae. These algal substrate firstly grow in the presence of CO2, sunlight, and water, and after growth it can be used for the pre-treatment, and after pre-treatment can be used for the hydrogen production. These microalgae cultivation and microalgae biomass and residues and pre-treatment may be physical, chemical, or biological, and substrate for hydrogen production, and we get the hydrogen through the dark fermentation process. Now, some of the examples in which some of the examples which showed that the use of algal biomass can produce a good amount of fuel in the form of hydrogen. The composition of de-oiled algal biomass comprising of lignin-free cellulose along with accumulated starch make it also an ideal feed stock for dark fermentative hydrogen production. For that, the pre-treatment in this study, the hydrothermal pre-treatment with dilute sulfuric acid was applied for the hydrolysis of high-density de-oiled algal biomass to generate monomeric sugar. Liquid fraction of algal biomass was collected by configuration and considered as algal pretreated extract, that is APE. The leftover pretreated solid algal biomass was considered as algal pretreated solid, that is APS. The mixture of pretreated extract and pretreated solid was considered as a algal pretreated slurry, that is API. Now, the key points of this study is that the first stage involves the pretreatment of de-oiled algal biomass by hydrolysis, where simple sugar are formed. In the second stage, the simple sugar are fermented into hydrogen by acidogenic bacteria. Hydrogen production was found to depend on the pretreatment strategy used to extract carbon source from feedstock. And this figure shows the maximum amount of hydrogen, that is specific hydrogen yield, was achieved by using, that is APE, that is algal pretreated extract. Now, the again algal feedstocks contain the marine macroalgae sample were analyzed and their content was given in percentage. It has a carbohydrate content 37.23%. And the pretreatment is in this study, the combined pretreatment is used, that is acetic hydrogen peroxide induced microwave pretreatment was applied for the pretreatment of algal feedstock. At optimal pH, this pretreatment shows maximum soluble chemical oxygen release at is 1850 milligram per liter, and the maximum biohydrogen production was achieved, that is 92.5 ml hydrogen per gram COD in this combined pretreatment. So this combined pretreatment has produced maximum amount of hydrogen yield, while the single pretreatment has given a low amount of hydrogen yield. Now, the next feedstock is Saccharina latissima. The main group of carbohydrates found in this seaweed is laminaria, alginate, cellulose, fucodian, and mannitol. The pre-treatment were carried out under steering speed of 500 rpm for 30 minutes, 100 degrees Celsius, 120, 140, 160, and 180 degrees Celsius. The biohydrogen yield from untreated seaweed was obtained as 11.7 ml per gram of volatile solid after fermentation of 48 hours, while the pre-treatment at 100 degrees Celsius increased the biohydrogen yield is 13.7 ml per gram of volatile solid. Now we come to the cellulose-based biomass. The cellulose-based biomass may include the forest, it can be forest residues, agricultural residues, grass residues, wood chip, municipal solid waste. The cellulose-based biomass is the most abundant raw material, and their annual yield from all over the world are estimated to exceed 220 billion tons. And these cellulose-based biomass is mainly contain the cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. Cellulose is present in the form of cellulose, hemicellulose, lignin network. In this network, cellulose and lignin fibers are connected by hemicellulose, and hemicellulose is covalently bonded with lignin through lignin carbohydrate complex. Lignin is a cross-linked network hydrophobic polymer. It is not only insoluble but also resistant to biodegradation. So degradation of this lignin takes some time. Lignin is the main hindering factor for fermentative hydrogen production from cellulose-based biomass. To enhance the digestibility of cellulose-based biomass, pre-treatment methods are required to remove or solubilize the lignin present in cellulose-based biomass. Pre-treatment is also beneficial in reducing the crystallinity of cellulose and enlarging the available surface area to enhance the biodegradability of cellulose-based biomass. Basically, the pre-treatment, what does it does reduce the crystallinity and improve the biodegradability of the biomass. That's why the microbes can easily use the substrate and utilize this substrate into a useful product. The agricultural biomass residues. The study shows the agricultural biomass residues such as corn cob, corn stalk, rice straw, and wheat straw were used as a feedstock. The bio waste were air dried and milled to pass different mesh screen, and then the sample powder was dried. The milled sample at a solid liquid ratio of 1 is to 10 were mixed with sulfuric acid, which were pretreated at 121 degrees Celsius for 60 minutes. After pretreatment, it was found that the corn stalk was the best feedstock with the maximum hydrogen production, that is 762.3 ml per liter hydrogen yield, and hydrogen yield of 76.2 ml per gram, and hydrogen production rate of 7.94 ml per liter per hour. Now it shows the cumulative hydrogen production, and it is also found that the maximum cumulative hydrogen production was achieved using the corn stalk substrate, and again maximum hydrogen production rate and hydrogen is also again achieved by the corn stalk substrate. Now we will come to the orange peel waste as a substrate. Orange peel sample were collected and used, and it has a 310 gram cellulose was obtained from per kg of orange peel, and laminine free orange peel hydrolysate was prepared and used as a substrate. And after using, it has been found that the 1700 ml per liter fermentive hydrogen production was obtained from 6% weight by volume orange peel hydrolysate. Now, the rice husk was used as a bio-waste substrate, that the rice waste characterized for its constituents like 29% cellulose, hemicellulose, and 24% lignin, and it was physically treated in different size, and the highest yield volume was achieved, that is to 29.26 ml, and highest yield, that is 5.9 ml hydrogen per gram of substrate, were achieved with the smallest particle size of rice husk bio waste. Now this shows the global scenario related to the collectible crop residues from 2013 to 2030, and the production capacity of biohydrogen from crop residues from 2030 to 2000. Now, the global production capacity of biohydrogen production from crop residues from 2013 to 2030. Now we will target here the targeting pre-treatment. These are the sustainable approaches targeting pre-treatment. Now the structure of now we will explain here the structure of lignocellulosic feedstock. The lignocellulosic material mainly contain the cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. Cellulose is one of the most abundant organic compound found in nature. It is complex, mostly crystalline. Hemicellulose is a branch polysaccharide and strongly linked with cellulose. And lignin is amorphous, complex, and aromatic polymer composed of phenyl propane units linked together with three-dimensional network. The compositional unit of cellulose, hemicellulose, lignin. Cellulose is a polymer of glucose monomer. Hemicellulose is a polymer of combination of monomers like the xylose, galactose, arabinose, mannose, and glucose. Xylose and arabinose are pentose, while the glucose and galactose and mannose are hexose. Lignin is the second most abundant biomaterial available and on earth. It is made up of repetitive unit of phenyl polymers such as coumaryl, coniferyl, and synephyl alcohol. The main function of lignin is to keep fiber together by strong binding force to enhance the compactness and resistance of the plant structure. So here to use the bio waste, firstly we target to disintegrate the compactness and resistance of the plant structure by using the different pre-treatment method. Here, this is a compact structure in which all are in a compact form. After pre-treatment, it completely disintegrate in different forms and different constitute completely extracted, and after that it can be utilized for the extraction of different carbohydrate sugar content and can be used for further the fuel production. Why we need pre-treatment for the substrate? This involves the breaking the crystalline structure of lignocellulosic compounds to release the cellulose and hemicellulose. This enhance the hydrolysis process, so that the microbial can use this in a very easy can use this in a very easy form. In pre-treatment, lignocellulosic structure is usually destroyed to reduce the crystalline nature of cellulose. Here, there are different methods for pre-treatment: the physical, chemical, and biological. The chemical pre-treatment, that the acid pre-treatment, the pre-treatment using acid with different acid like the sulfuric acid, hydrochloric acid, nitric acid. The byproducts of acid pretreatment form, which include the acetic furfural and 5-hydroxymethyl furfural, inhibit microbial growth. Hydrolysates obtained after acid pretreatment are detoxified before fermentation. Alkaline pretreatment. This includes the pretreatment of lignocellulosic biomass with sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide, calcium hydroxide, ammonium hydroxide. They break down the cell walls and solubilize the hemicellulose, lignin, and silica. This pretreatment decreases the crystallinity of cellulose. Wet oxidation. In wet oxidation, the raw material is treated with water and oxygen at a temperature above 120 degrees Celsius. Water is added to the biomass, and the primary product of this process are sugar oligomers. Physical treatment. Mechanical size reduction. This involves milling, grinding, chipping to reduce size particle and increase the surface area. It decreases the crystallinity. The smaller the size, the better the production of fuel. Example: pre-treatment of oil palm empty fruit bunch by ball milling technique resulted in the reduction of its crystallinity index about 56.1% to 9.3%. Dry heat and electron beam radiation. There is a generation of heat in the biomass which is produced by microwave radiation. The generated heat leads to the burst among the particles that alter the lignocellulose structure. Steam explosion. It involves the use of steam bursts for pretreatment of lignocellulosic biomass. The individual fibers of the lignocellulosic matrix expand and separates as the steam stretches out. In this process, there is 45% of xylose recovery, which makes it more economical. Organic solvent-based pretreatment. The organic solvents such as methanol, ethanol, acetic acid is used for reducing the lignin composition of lignocellulosic biomass. This process helps the extraction of lignin from the solvent. Biological pre-treatment. It includes the cost. It is a cost-effective method and environmentally friendly, and require some longer time. The lignocellulose is acted upon by microorganism, most especially fungi, which includes brown rot attacking cellulose, white rot attacking both cellulose and lignin. Biological pretreatment has not been done on large scale just because of the minimal hydrolysis rates and low yields. Biological pretreatment can be obtained through the action of enzyme producing microorganism or fermentation by microorganism. Enzymatic hydrolysis. Enzymatic hydrolysis is preferred over acid alkali hydrolysis because it is less toxic. No toxic byproduct is formed and low corrosion, low energy input is required. Complex carbohydrate into monomeric units by the action of microorganism producing these enzymes. These enzymes are called the cellulose. These are some of the microorganisms reported for the cellulose production: cellulomonas, Thermomonospora, Clostridium, Bacillus, Bacteroides, Ruminococcus, Irvinia, Acetovibrio, Microbispora, and Streptomyces. And fungi में Trichoderma, Penicillium, Fusarium, the Schizophyllum. Practical difficulties with lignocellulosic pretreatment. What difficulties comes when we pretreat the lignocellulosic materials? Pretreatment is needed to unlock carbohydrate content of lignocellulosic organic matter. Pretreatment induces the formation of technological unfavorable compound known as a fermentation inhibitors. It causes the difficulties in pretreatment of lignocellulosic material. This phenomena is complex and may be coupled with the loss of fermentable sugars. Inhibitory substance might be present in prehydrolysate and are considered as a hydrolysis and fermentation barriers. The byproduct of fermentation can be as a phenolic component originated from lignin degradation and furan derivatives such as furfural and 5-hydroxymethyl furfural, and weak acid like the acetic acid and formic acid. The aim of pre-treatment is always to get the better accessibility to carbohydrate fraction and to avoid the formation of undesirable inhibitors. It is quite clear that the production of fermentation inhibitors cannot be fully prevented, but they can be more or less restricted through the adequate control and optimization, like the exposure time, temperature, pressure, concentration of chemicals. It is important to note that the inhibitory components cause toxic effect on cell growth and metabolic activity. For instance, the most poisonous phenolic agent injure cell membrane. Furan derivatives interact with enzyme involved in fermentative bioreaction, and undissociated carboxylic acid have the ability to enter the intracellular space where they shift the pH into the unfavorable ranges. Now these are some of the biomass, and after pre-treatment they releases some of the inhibitors like the furfural, acetic acid, formic acid, phenolic compounds, and it has been concluded when we treat the substrate with the biological way, the uh, very less amount of, or sometimes it not be detected, uh, the inhibitors. The biogen production from algal biomass after pre-treatment, like Chlorella vulgaris, after hydrolytic extracellular enzyme pre-treatment, it produced the 43.1 ml hydrogen by gram of total solid. Chlorella vulgaris, cellulose, pectinase, and hemicellulose degradation, and the production is 135 ml hydrogen per gram of volatile solid. And Sandesmus species, heat treatment has been given at 100 degrees Celsius for 8 hours and 35.38 ml hydrogen per gram of volatile solid. Syndesmus, heat treatment 121 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes and 10.8 to 15.5 ml hydrogen per gram of volatile solid. Chlorella vulgaris 1.6% hydrochloric acid, 35 minutes, and it gives the 36 ml hydrogen per gram of total solids. And cyanobacterial blooms at pH 13, it gives a 94 ml hydrogen per gram of volatile solid. Targeting physiochemical parameters. As as the they are the till now we have studied the different types of bio waste, and for the biohydrogen production has been explored, and what types of pre-treatment has been used, and how much amount has been produced after the pre-treatment. Now we will focus here the different types of key factors on dark fermentative biohydrogen production, like iron, nickel, magnesium, molybdenum, manganese, yeast, buffer solution, pH, and temperature. These all are the very important key factors that take a very potential role in enhancing or augmenting the biohydrogen production. Iron. Iron is an important nutrient element to form the hydrogenase and other enzymes. As we know that in hydrogen production, there is a very important enzyme, that is hydrogenase enzyme is mainly responsible for the hydrogen production. So, and the presence of iron is important because it actually acts as a stimulator for biohydrogen production. It has been reported that iron sulfur has an effect on protein function primarily as an electron carrier. Now, nickel hydrogenase are classified into two major families, that is NIFE hydrogenase and Fe hydrogenase. Among them, NIFE hydrogenase are abundant among bacteria in comparison to FeFe hydrogenase. When hydrogen production is catalyzed by the NIFE hydrogenase, electrons are transported through an intramolecular electron transfer chain from the redox partner of the NIFE hydrogenase. to the active side, and meanwhile the protons are also transferred to the active side, and then protons are reduced by the electrons at the active side to produce hydrogen. Since nickel is a fundamental component, that is, we know that the NiFe hydrogenase, it may affect the fermentative hydrogen production by influencing the activity of NiFe hydrogenase. Magnesium. Magnesium I require for the microorganism is principally due to the specific requirement of the ribosome. Sorry. It also functions as a cofactor of enzyme and is one of the constituents of cell walls and membrane. Magnesium ions are all known to be essential for the metabolism and growth of microorganisms. Temperature. Temperature is one of the most important operational parameters in fermentative hydrogen production. Temperature affects the growth rate and metabolic pathway of microorganism. Fermentative reaction can be operated at mesophilic condition, that is 25 to 40 degrees Celsius, thermophilic 40 to 65 degrees Celsius, or hyperthermophilic less than 80 degrees Celsius temperature. pH is an important factor that influences the activities of hydrogen producing bacteria. It affects the hydrogenase activity as well as the metabolic pathway. Manganese ions are known as the essential cofactor of many important enzymes for bacterial growth and survival under the condition of oxidative stress. So it protects the bacterial culture. Buffer solutions is usually done to maintain a stable pH range for the medium throughout the fermentation period. Vitamins is one of the essential nutrients required by organism in a small amount for their metabolism throughout the lifespan. Without the presence of vitamins, bacterial cells start to weaken and these colonies will start to lose their characteristics. So vitamins assist in preventing the bacteria from deterioration as well as stimulating the recovery of strains. Yeast contains some basic nutrients for bacteria, including vitamins, which could promote the selective growth of bacteria. These are some of the elements which can efficiently affect on the biohydrogen production. This is the number of research and reviews articles published related to biohydrogen in most productive journal during the period of 2010 to 2020. Now we will again come to the point of immobilization. It is again a very sustainable technique by which we can use this and we can enhance or improve the hydrogen production. Firstly, Heller stated that the microbial growth and activity raises when they are connected to a surface. Zobel reported first time in 1943 that the surrounding seawater have a less number of bacteria than on the surface. It is stated that microbes generally prefers to live in surface associated communities in the form of biofilm, and the strength of biofilm is to protect the microbial cell from the shear stress. Immobilized microorganism versus suspended. Why we want to immobilize the microorganism any surfaces? Why we cannot use the suspended cells in a fermentation media? Why we prefer immobilized during this era? Culture cell can be used either as a suspended form or as an immobilized form in biohydrogen production. Most biohydrogen production studies use suspended cells which can prone to wash out during the continuous process. That's why, and it causes operational instability and reduces its yield. That's why we are preferring here the immobilized microbial cells are used to prevent this problem, and they also possess the some following advantages. In the advancement of using immobilized cell over any matrices or in any polymers, it increases the biohydrogen yield during the biohydrogen production. It has the ability to withstand harsh fermentation conditions such as solvent, pH, and toxic metals. Potential to increase the substrate conversion efficiency. Enhancement of ability to operate at high organic loading rates and at short retention time. Possible reusability of microorganism and protection of microbial cells against shear stress caused by the strain. Support material and technique during the immobilization. Property of support matrix employed for immobilization. It should have large surface area and functional group to which cells adhere. It should be non-toxic towards biohydrogen producing microorganism. It should have good mechanical, chemical, and thermal stabilities. It should be inexpensive, reusable, and it should be resistant towards fermentative byproducts and should provide adequate homogeneity within the bioreactor. It should be uniform permeability, thus enabling free diffusion of nutrient, gases, and cofactors. Now the some of the immobilization techniques applied in biohydrogen production. The firstly we will target here the entrapment. This is one of the most simplest and common method. Biohydrogen producing cells are entrapped inside the cells. Suppose this is a support material and the cells are entrapped in this support material. This support material creates a protective barrier towards around the cell, ensuring their protection for a long period of time. This is a support material and these cells are entrapped in this matrix. This method uses various immobilizing materials such as agar, alginate, cellulose, polyurethane, polyvinyl, and polypropylene. So these support matrix can be made from these different materials, and it should be inexpensive. Now, what is the adsorption method? Adsorption involves the attachment of microbial cells to the surface of support matrix. This method provides a better mass transfer. Better mass transfer. Why better transfer? Because these cells are totally adsorbed on the surface. While in this method, entrapment method, cells are entrapped in this polymer, in this material. So this method provides the better mass transfer efficiency, improved biomass retention and capacity, and stable. The interaction between microbial cell and the support matrix is governed by various forces like the van der Waals forces, ionic forces, hydraulic forces, and hydrophobic forces. It is attached to these surfaces, matrix surfaces, with these forces. Unlike the cell entrapment, adsorption is advantageous because nutrients are in direct contact with the immobilized cell, and therefore it improves the substrate conversion efficiency. Encapsulation is similar to entrapment. Cells are retained in it and retained within the permeable membrane that allows diffusion of nutrients. This method helps in prevent cell leakage, prevent inhibitory material, minimize contamination, enhance substrate conversion efficiency. Containment within the synthetic material is similar to entrapment method where the cells are trapped in this, inside the support material. The use of synthetic polymer is gaining increasing interest in biohydrogen production because these materials are more stable and exhibit better performance compared to natural polymer. Example of synthetic polymer include polyacrylamide, polyurethane, polyvinyl alcohol, polyethylene glycol, and polycarbamyl sulfonate. Now, this different types of support material has been used in this study. That is, this is the SEM image of this is the SEM image of without immobilization of foam and coconut coir and wood shaving. And after immobilization, the bacteria is completely adsorbed on the surface of this matrix, and shows the SEM image of immobilized foam, immobilized coconut coir, and immobilized wood shaving. And it concluded from this study that the bacterial culture is highly adsorbed onto the surface of foam matrix. Why? Because without immobilization, it can be easily seen these foam matrix has a various rough surface, and it has a numerous porosity, so bacteria will attach on this surface in maximum amount and after immobilization process. And when the bacteria is highly adsorbs onto the surface, it can utilize the maximum amount of substrate and utilize this substrate for the biohydrogen production. And it can be concluded from this study that the foam was the best support material in comparison of this all for absorbing the culture and utilize for the biofuel, that is biohydrogen production. Now we will see here the different types of support material, that is the same image of that is immobilized Clostridium butyricum TISTR 1032 on sugarcane bagasse improved biohydrogen production rate approximately 1.2 times in comparison to the free cells. This is the same image of support material, and the immobilized Clostridium butyricum on on the matrix, that is the sugarcane bagasse, after 5 repeated runs of batch fermentation. And we can easily see that in the last, that is the huge density of bacteria are adsorbed onto the surface of this matrix. That's why the reason it can use the maximum substrate and utilize this substrate for the maximum production of hydrogen fuel. So in other words, we can say we can use the feedstock for extracting the simple sugar for utilizing by the bacteria for fuel production, and also these feedstock can be used as a matrices for the immobilization on for the immobilization of bacteria on that, and utilize these matrices for the production of maximum amount of fuel production. Now, the impact of support material on hydrogen production. Now, in this study, the different types of support material like the granular activated carbon, glass beads, and moringa seeds were used as a support carrier, and it has been shown that is the during biohydrogen production. This is a different matrices, and this shows the immobilized matrices, and it has been found the concentration of hydrogen production against time. It has been found that the GAC, that is the granular activated carbon, has produced maximum volume of biogas, that is 95 ml, and hydrogen concentration is 1000 ppm. Now, again, the support carrier, that is the ceramic ring and pumic stone, were used. Ceramic ring and pumic stone were used as a support matrix for the enhancement of biohydrogen production in immobilized cell culture system. In terms of, if we talk about the volumetric hydrogen production, the best value was obtained with the ceramic rings, that is 1.5 HRD, that is 2.98 liter hydrogen per liter per day. On the other hand, the pumic stone packed reactor resulted in 30% less volumetric hydrogen production at the twofold longer retention time. It was demonstrated that the volumetric hydrogen production with the immobilized bioreactor configuration was six-fold better than the suspended cell. So various studies, various immobilization study resulted that the immobilized surface, immobilized matrix can produce maximum or huge amount of production in comparison of the free cell or the suspended cell. Now the impact of immobilization. Now we will explain here various types of matrices like, through the adsorption technique. Now we will talk about the impact of immobilized beads, but we use the immobilization technique in that. The effect of cell bead. Actually, in this method, the cells are entrapped in the polymer, and the bead size is also responsible for the enhancing the hydrogen production. Effect of cell bead size of immobilized tetraspora cells on hydrogen production. It has been shown the bead size 2.36 to 2.8 has produced maximum rate of hydrogen production. And the effect of alginate concentration is also responsible for the synthesis for the maximum production of biohydrogen, and it has been shown that the 4% has been used, and it has produced a maximum rate of hydrogen production. Now these are the some of the support matrices which has been used, like the granular this is a inoculum, this is heat treated sludge, and the support carries granulated activated carbon and produce hydrogen is 2.7, and the mixed culture clostridium heat and acid pretreated sludge. And these are the different types of support carrier, that is calcium alginate, fibrous polymeric material, ceramic rings, stainless steel, scrubber, polyester fiber, loofah sponge, plastic bath sponge, aquarium biological sponge, granular activated carbon, and they can produce a good yield in that is per hydrogen per mole of hydrogen per mole hydrogen per mole of glucose, that is 2.7 and 1.7 by using the granular activated carbon. And the maximum is has been found is again the 2.57 2.7 using the granular activated carbon. This is the comparative study on the hydrogen production from various support carriers. So the summary of the talk is that we collect the different types of suitable substrate, and after collecting we extract the carbon source after pre-treatment of this substrate, use this substrate by the potent bacterium, and use the some key factors like the some nutrients like the uh, nitrogen, nickel, iron in the fermentation media, and you use the optimum temperature, optimum pH, and we can improve the biohydrogen production. And we can also use the waste matrices. As we know, in our environment various types of matrices are found, like the lignocellulosic matrices is also found, and degradable or biodegradable matrices is also found. So we can use different types of matrices for our study, and we can interpret which matrices can be can be a good matrix for our study on large scale. Now, now these are some of the references by which we can have extracted the. Hello.
Thank you, Miss Priya. It was a very good and it was very well explained. And now the session is open for discussion. Participants, if you have any query, kindly raise your hand and we'll call you by name. Participants, you are requested to write your queries and then we'll ask on your behalf. Do you have any queries, participants? Okay, just let me check who has raised their hand. Shweta Kulshrestha. Please, can you write your query in the chat box?
Hello. स्टॉप प्रेजेंटिंग कर दूं, स्टॉप प्रेजेंट. Hello. Yes, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Yes. Hello.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anyone? Hello.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Am
Hello.
I audible?
Yes, yes. You can speak, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah. It is very nicely presented.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, I am Dr. Shweta Kusrich from MIT University, Rajasthan.
Yes, ma'am.
So, my question is, what are the pros and cons of bacterial or enzyme immobilization? Which is more preferable?
Ma'am, as we know that the bacterial immobilization onto the surface of matrix is very beneficial, as one of my paper has been published in Fuel recently, and in that paper I have used the different types of matrices. Among them, the form matrix is has produced a maximum amount of hydrogen production at a lab scale. Now I will use this matrix for my further study on large scale. So on the basis of this study, I have found that the adsorption process for the enhancing of any type of fuel production, it can be proceeded through the adsorption process, and it can be better technology we can use and produce maximum amount of fuel production.
Okay, thank you for your answer. My next question is, you mentioned that we can, by using same technique, we can see the immobilized bacteria on the
Yes,
fibers
yes,
or
yes,
anything.
yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Yes,
So I would like to know, is there any, that is a qualitative method, right? In
yes,
which we
ma'am.
can, hello?
Quali, yes, ma'am. Hello.
That is like qualitative method. So is there any quantitative method to observe the how much bacteria is immobilized on the fiber or some surface or
Okay,
some
ma'am.
matrix?
Actually, ma'am, this the SEM technique actually clear see the picture of how bacteria are immobilized on the surfaces. But
Yeah.
in yes, ma'am. But when we use the immobilize, how can how? Matlab, it means it just not give the how much immobilized on the surfaces. In culture, if we use the suspended cell in the fermentation media, it is easy to know the how much cells are viable, how much cells are dead, or how much cells are we can use the different method. But on the immobilized surface, how much density are absorbed onto the surface of matrices, we can use see the through the SEM techniques. It can define, it can easily it can give the significant result about how much give the, it is an advanced technique, and it is now going on. last 10 years. I think about that.
Yeah. No. What I'm asking that we can see the presence of bacteria on the immobilized surfaces like matrix, whatever you are saying.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
can we standardize that this much amount is immobilized means is there any quantitative method for that?
No, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. I'm not able to do that in a
Okay.
quantitative method. I just absorbed and just see the what how much bacteria, how much density and how much cells are absorbed onto the surface in comparative way regarding to different matrices.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other query from the participants side? If there is no query, then we'll be closing this session for today. This is the final call for the participants to ask their query. Okay, I believe there is no query, and I would like to thank all the participants.
हाँ हो गया यहाँ तो माइंड डिसेबल नहीं कर पा रही थी क्या
यहाँ से क्या अपने से?
कर ली थी हो गया सबसे बातचीत हो गई ओवर खुश हो
Okay, ma'am. Now I would like to thank all the participants to attend all the sessions, and tomorrow we'll be meeting sharp at 10 a.m. for the next session. And I request you now to kindly leave this session.
Any doubt, participants?